It's still summer here in Beulah, but winter and mud are on the way. So today I thought I would make a boot scraper. I'm going to start the boot scraper with this big piece of 1/4-inch flat stock. It's 1/4 by 3.5. So that's about 6 millimeters by 90 millimeters. And I'll probably cut this down. It's a little bit too long. I think I'll cut it down to 10 inches. So that's somewhere in the range of 250 millimeters. There's huge variety in boot scrapers. You can do all sorts of things. I'm going to make this one really simple. There will be 3 main pieces, 4 rivets, and a little bit of forging, and that should be about it. But you can make these out of a lot more pieces. You can do a lot of scroll work. A lot of boot scrapers have a nice wide piece like this that's been scalloped and textured, and I think I'm going to do a little of that on the bottom. I'm going to leave the top straight so it's easier to scrape your boots on. But some of them are contoured both top and bottom, so they're kind of interesting. But in the long run, as long as it'll scrape the mud off your boots, it's all you need. I have some 5/8 square bar, so what is that, maybe 18 millimeter square bar, and that's what the legs will be made out of. So with that in mind, I'm going to cut this to length, and I'm going to lay out a little bit of an arch in the bottom just to make it look a little more graceful. That's about all that needs to be done with this, but we'll go ahead and cut it with a chisel so it's more of a blacksmithing project. Besides that, I broke the blade on my little bandsaw, and the new one hadn't come in the mail yet. I'm just kind of guessing it'll lay out here. Certainly making a paper pattern would be the ideal. So that's kind of what I have in mind there for an arch, and we'll just lay that out cold with a chisel and cut it. I'll cut that on a saw before we start though. This piece of 5/8, I think I'll cut into some 16-inch long pieces. I'm going to just put a long taper on the back side, and these are just going to drive into the ground. I'm just going to stick it in the ground outside the shop or next to the front porch. But you can make these with feet. You can make them with little flanges on the bottom to bolt into concrete. You can bolt them into a wooden step. I've seen some that one side bolts to the step and the other side arches up and makes kind of a handle to hold on to balance while you're standing on one foot. Lots and lots of different possibilities with these. Use your imagination, do a little research. I'm sure if you look online, you'll find lots of examples. I've been looking in a book of old colonial ironwork to get some ideas for this, although this is not an exact representation of any of the ones out of that book. So I'm going to cut my material to length, light the fire, and meet you at the forge. If you take the time to lay out a chisel cut like this cold with the same chisel you're going to use hot, it makes it a whole lot easier to find your line again when the piece is hot. I'm laying out a little bit short of the line so I can grind to the line after this is all cut out. Now this will take several heats to cut all the way through. For cutting along a curve like that, if your chisel has a belly to it or a curve to it so it's not just straight across, it's easier to take smaller bites and follow the curve. As you come close to cutting through, make sure you put a soft plate underneath so you cut through into the sacrificial plate and don't hit your anvil. The chisel work does cause this to deform and bend backwards, so I'm going to go ahead and straighten that before I do anything else with it. So once this cools, I'm going to clean it up on the grinder. The arch just happens to match the 8-inch contact wheel on my grinder, so it's going to be a piece of cake to put a very nice curve on. As I mentioned earlier, there are lots of things you can do with the legs on this. I'm going to keep it pretty simple, but you could do something like put a ball end on these, or scroll the ends, split the ends, scroll them different ways. Slot punch this, then mortise and tenon the scraper blade in there. I'm just going to rivet it to the flats because it's one of the simplest ways to do it. And that makes it more of a beginner project, and lots of the old ones seem to have been done that way. Looking through the historic examples, you see lots of them that were just riveted to the side of the uprights. Nothing very fancy done. These were utilitarian pieces in most cases. So I'm just going to put a little upset on the end just to give it some sort of character. Then I'm going to draw the other end out so I have a spike, and this will just drive into the ground to be used. It'll probably work loose over the years, and you'll have to reset it every now and then. Really no big deal. In fact, it may even rust and fall to pieces if I got to make another one 10 years from now. I know a guy that can do that. If you enjoy videos like this, you might want to consider hitting the subscribe button. Ring the bell next to the subscribe button to be notified when I make new videos. And of course, I always appreciate it if you hit that like button. As a way of giving thanks to my Patreon patrons who help support this channel financially, I am now posting ad-free versions of my videos over on Patreon. So if you're a Patreon patron, you can see the videos without those annoying ads that run. And in the rare case that I have a sponsored video, I'll skip the sponsored promotion on the Patreon version too. So all you get is the blacksmithing content. If you have a lower work surface, such as an upsetting block at the base of your anvil, or in my case, I'm just going to use this swedge block, that makes the whole thing a little bit more ergonomic. When working by hand, drawing out over the horn of the anvil is probably the most efficient way to go. But a power hammer is just a little more efficient yet. going to go ahead and put a little bevel on the corners just to soften the harsh lines of the factory steel. I'll lay out and drill the holes in the scraper portion first, and then I'll transfer those hole locations through onto the legs. And I'll use a countersink to make sure there aren't any burrs on the edge of the hole. Since this will drive into the ground, it doesn't really matter if the spikes are a little bit different lengths, as long as I get the tops the same. So I'm going to square off the top here and decide where I want my blade to be. And I'll just line that up. I'm just going to mark and drill one hole for now, and once that rivet's set, that'll hold that in place while I drill the second hole. For a round head rivet, the general rule of thumb is 1.5 times the diameter of the rivet longer in length than it takes to go through the material. I'm using an 1.125" long rivet, which is a little bit short, but I'm not worried about a perfect round head rivet on this. I don't think it needs it. It'll be plenty strong with just a simple little rivet head on the back, so I'm going to go ahead and go with the shorter rivet instead of trimming a whole bunch of rivets. I should have put the touch mark on it while the blade was still hot, but this will still work just fine. I chose beeswax as a finish for this project. When it smokes this much, it's still too hot, so I'm going to let it cool a little bit more. I do hope you enjoyed this simpler, a little bit more basic project, and I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop, but be safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next one.